The crystalline chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with tension as Ambassador Adnan stood before the semicircular array of alien representatives. His dark eyes swept across the assembly, the insectoid Vexhi with their clicking mandibles, the gaseous ethereals floating in their containment suits, and the towering Cronin with their stone-like features. For 3 years he had endured their condescension, their barely concealed contempt for humanity's primitive ways. Beside him, Dr. Nehal adjusted her translator device, her fingers trembling slightly. As humanity's chief xenobiologist, she had spent countless hours trying to bridge the gap between species, believing that understanding would lead to acceptance. Today, that hope felt as fragile as morning frost. "The motion is clear," announced Counselor Vexthak, his compound eyes glittering with satisfaction. "Humanity's expansion beyond the Sol system is hereby suspended indefinitely. Your species lacks the maturity required for galactic citizenship." The proclamation hit like a physical blow. Adnan's jaw tightened, but he maintained his diplomatic composure. 3 generations of humans had lived on New Terra, on Mars colonies, on the orbital stations around Jupiter. Now the Council wanted to cage them all back to Earth. "Honored Counselor," Adnan began, his voice carefully measured, "humanity has adhered to every treaty, every regulation you've imposed. We've contributed to galactic medicine, engineering, and contributions built on violence," interrupted Counselor Moranth of the Ethereals, her voice a whisper that seemed to emanate from everywhere at once. "Your species' history is written in blood. Wars, genocide, ecological destruction. You are a cancer that must be contained." Nehal stepped forward, her scientific mind racing. "If I may, counselors, our research shows that every species in this chamber has a similar violent past." The Vexhi Great Culling eliminated 60% of their population. The Cronin glass-bombed 3 worlds during their expansion phase. "Silence!" The Cronin representative's voice boomed like grinding stone. "Our evolution is complete. Yours has barely begun." Adnan watched Nehal's face crumble. She had dedicated her life to proving humanity's worth, only to have it thrown back at them with cosmic arrogance. Something inside him shifted. Not the diplomat's careful patience, but something deeper, more fundamental. "You know," Adnan said quietly, too quietly, "we've been very patient." The chamber fell silent. There was something in his tone that made even the massive Cronin lean forward. "For 3 years I've sat in this chamber and listened to you debate our fate like we're specimens in a lab. You've restricted our trade, limited our movement, and now you want to lock us away like dangerous animals." His voice remained calm, conversational even. "But you've made one crucial mistake." Counselor Vexithak's mandibles clicked nervously. "What mistake, human?" Adnan smiled, and for the first time in 3 years it wasn't diplomatic. "You assumed our patience was weakness." Nehal's eyes widened as she understood. The research data, the biological surveys, the peaceful exploration missions, they hadn't just been scientific endeavors. Humanity had been mapping everything, learning everything, preparing. "You see," Adnan continued, "while you've been debating our worthiness, we've been studying you. Dr. Nehal here discovered something fascinating about Vexhi biology. Your entire species is vulnerable to a specific harmonic frequency. Amazing how evolution can leave such gaps." The Vexhi ambassador began to rise from his chair, but Adnan held up a hand. "Oh, please sit. We're not done. The ethereals, so advanced, so evolved, but completely dependent on your containment suits in any oxygen-rich environment. And the Cronin? Your stone-like skin is impressive, but it's actually quite brittle when exposed to certain mineral acids. We've synthesized quite a lot of it, actually." The chamber erupted in alarmed chittering, gaseous hissing, and grinding protests. Adnan waited for silence. "But here's what really amazes me," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the chaos. "You're all so convinced of your superiority that you never noticed what we've been building while you've been talking." He gestured, and the chamber's main display activated. Images filled the screen, massive shipyards hidden in asteroid belts, weapon platforms orbiting dead worlds, entire fleets of vessels unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Human engineering, but enhanced with technology borrowed from every species that had looked down on them. "You wanted to contain us to Sol system?" Adnan asked. "Too late. There are human colonies in 47 systems now. Hidden, protected, and very, very angry about this council's decision. Nahal found her voice. The Biological Warfare Division has developed targeted pathogens for each species represented here. Non-lethal, of course, we're not monsters, but effective enough to remind you that evolution isn't about being the strongest or the smartest. She smiled, and it was sharp as a blade. It's about being the most adaptable. The council chambers descended into chaos. Threats were hurled, weapons were drawn, and alarms began blaring. But Adnan remained calm, watching as centuries of galactic order began to crumble. "Here's what's going to happen," he announced, his voice somehow carrying over the din. "You're going to rescind your restrictions on humanity immediately. You're going to treat us as equals, not pets or threats. And you're going to learn something your species seemed to have forgotten during your evolution." He leaned forward, his eyes hard as diamonds. "You're going to learn respect." Outside the council chambers, human ships began to decloak around the station. Not warships exactly. Humanity had learned to be more creative than that. Medical ships loaded with species-specific diseases, mining vessels equipped with sonic weapons. Even the apparently harmless research stations revealed hidden capabilities. As the council members scrambled to understand their new reality, Adnan turned to Nehal. She was no longer the hopeful scientist who had entered the chamber. Her eyes held the same hard light as his. "So much for peaceful coexistence," she murmured. Adnan nodded. "They chose force when they tried to cage us. We're just showing them what force actually looks like when you're dealing with humans." The galaxy would remember this day, the day humanity's patience finally ran out, and the council learned that sometimes the most dangerous species are the ones that have been quiet too long. In the end, it wasn't humanity's violence that shook the galaxy. It was their patience, their planning, and their absolute refusal to be anyone's pet species. The council had indeed gone too far, and now they would learn exactly what that meant.